One of the funnier, lighter moments in Game of Thrones Season 6 is Tormund's adorable crush on Brienne of Tarth. Brienne doesn't reciprocate, sadly, but in the books there are hints of another woman Tormund may have a secret romance with. You know how Daenerys is famous for having a lot of titles? She's Daenerys Targaryen, first of her name, Queen of Meereen, Queen of the Andals and the Rhoynar and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, Protector of the Realm, Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, Stormborn, the Unburnt, Mother of Dragons, Misa, and Breaker of Chains. Well, in the books, Tormund, too, has many names. They call him Tormund Giantsbane, Tall Talker, Hornblower, and Breaker of Ice, Tormund Thunderfist, Husband to Bears, the Mead King of Ruddy Hall, Speaker to Gods, and Father of Hosts. Tormund's quite a different character in the books compared to the show. He's more funny, always joking, drinking, telling tall stories, and one tale he tells explains one of his titles, Husband to Bears. The story goes that one cold winter's night, Tormund was drinking alone when he decided to go visit a woman he knew nearby. He went out, got a bit lost, but eventually found the woman, and though she fought him, got her out of her furs and had sex with her. When Tormund woke up the next morning, he found his body ripped and torn, half his penis bitten off, and a she-bear's pelt lying beside him. Turns out, he had sex with a bear, and supposedly a bald bear is later seen in the woods, with the queerest pair of cubs behind her. This story obviously isn't literally true. Tormund's a notorious bag of wind and lies called Tall Talker after all, but there are hints that the story might be loosely based in truth, possibly revealing a secret relationship between Tormund and Lady Maege Mormont. House Mormont is a northern family based on Bear Island, up near the Wall. They're led by Jorah Mormont till he joins the Night's Watch, then by Jorah Mormont till he flees Westeros after selling slaves. He ends up serving with Daenerys. So now the leader of House Mormont is Lady Maege, who's called the She-Bear. So the theory here is that Tormund's story of a she-bear is not really about an actual bear, it's about the she-bear of Bear Island, Maege Mormont. And there are hints supporting this. Tormund describes both the woman he knows nearby and the she-bear as having a temper. Maege is described as stubborn, willful, and short-tempered. Maege is also described as a stout and strong warrior, which fits with Tormund's descriptions of a fine, strong woman and of the fighting she-bear. It is a bit confusing whether Maege is more the woman Tormund knows or the she-bear in this story. Maybe it's a bit of both. But the point is that Tormund's she-bear story does seem to have connections with the she-bear of Bear Island, Lady Maege. And there's more, cause Lady Maege has 5 daughters, though no one seems to know who the father is, or if Maege has a husband. Maege's daughter Alysanne, who herself has a couple of kids, also apparently has no husband. She says, Mormont women are skin changers. We turn into bears and find mates in the woods. Everyone knows. This again is probably not literally true, but it supports the idea that Mormont women are metaphorically she-bears, out in the woods mating with men like Tormund. This could make logistical sense. Bear Island is very close to the wildling lands beyond the Wall. Maege says that it's because of the threat of being carried off by Ironmen or by wildlings that Mormont women need to be warriors. So it'd make sense for Tormund and Maege to have met during a wildling raid on Bear Island. In Tormund's story, he claims to have carried the she-bear back to his home, which in wildling culture constitutes a marriage, thus making Tormund husband to the she-bear. Of course, none of this sounds terribly consensual on Maege's part, what with the talk of carrying off and the fighting she-bear, but there's reason to believe that this relationship between Tormund and Maege, if it exists, may be consensual and positive and ongoing. Partly because of the positive way Alysanne talks about the Mormont she-bears mating in the woods, and partly because of the way Tormund talks about the woman who lives nearby. It sounds like an ongoing relationship, but also because an ongoing consensual relationship could better explain Maege's daughters. Tormund says that the she-bear bears him cubs, children. Maybe these are Maege's daughters, those of the mysterious, unknown father. Tormund also mentions sons, which might mean that Maege is the mother of some of Tormund's 4 sons. It sounds almost as though Maege chooses to keep her 5 daughters, but gives her sons to be raised by Tormund beyond the wall, though it's hard to imagine how Maege could do all of this secretly. This is a lot of kids to come from a secret relationship across the Bay of Ice, so maybe only some of the kids are the children of Tormund with Maege. But even if it's only some, that could be very significant. Maege and Tormund may not be the first wildling-non-wildling relationship in the series. There's Jon and Ygritte and Gilly and Sam, but Maege Mormont is the Lady of Bear Island, a ruler in the north. If her kids have free folk blood in them, if Lil Lyanna Mormont is half wildling, that could really impact the attitudes of people in the north, who of course mostly hate wildlings. Bridging this gap between the wildlings and the Northmen is becoming more important with White Walkers on the way, and any relationship between Tormund and Maege could maybe help with this alliance. The hatred between Tormund and wildlings also adds a layer of tragedy to a relationship between Tormund and Maege. They're separated by sides that have been enemies for centuries, star-crossed like Romeo and Juliet with the Montagues and Capulets. And of course by dance, Tormund and Maege are split further apart. Tormund is at Castle Black, while Maege is way down in the Neck, possibly involved in a northern conspiracy. The lovers are now so far apart. Would that I could find her again, Tormund says. So look, there's no strong evidence for a relationship between Tormund and Maege. Tormund's story may be just a story, and Maege's daughters may have been fathered by some common man on Bear Island or something. But the hints and connections with strong, bad-tempered she-bears are there, and the logistics and timing could work. So it is at least fairly possible that husband-to-bears Tormund and the she-bear Maege Mormont get together on one cold winter's night. Thanks for watching this video. If you'd like to help a team of academics in their study of the Game of Thrones fandom, go take their questionnaire at the link below. Thank you to the patrons for making this video possible, including Melissa C. Williams, Brett Jensen, Ziggy Foxman, Gavin Biggs, Taggart McStone, Neil Roop Ramroop, Laurie DeLava, and Fuller Stern. Thanks also to Pauline on Twitter. Cheers.